been a landmark judgment today from the Supreme Court nullifying the elections of all candidates of the All Progressives Congress in Zamfara State who participated in the 2019 general elections. In a unanimous judgment of the five-man panel led by the Acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, the Apex Court declared the first runners-up in the 2019 elections in the state as the winners of all the posts earlier declared to have been won by the APC and its candidates. Justice Paul Galunje, who read the lead judgment, upheld the decision of the Appeal Court, Sokoto Division, to the effect that the APC did not conduct any valid primary elections and as such had no candidates for any of the elections in the state. Our correspondent Amaka Okafor reports.
Supporters of the parties in the suit waiting anxiously outside the Supreme Court premises for the judgment of the Apex Court, which will decide the fate of the All Progressive Congress in the last general elections in Zamfara State. Not long after, those who were able to make it into the courtroom were living with sunken faces, an indication of disappointment. It turned out that the Apex Court, in a judgment that has been described as one that will prevent a constitutional crisis in Zamfara State, nullified all votes cast for the All Progressive Congress in the just concluded election and ordered that candidates of the parties with the highest number of valid votes with the required spread stand elected in Zamfara State. Justice Paul Galunje, who read the unanimous judgment of the Apex Court, agreed with the Appeal Court Sokoto Division that the APC did not conduct any primaries for it to have participated in the last election. He described every vote cast for the APC as a wasted vote. The Apex Court did not stop there, but also ordered the APC to pay the sum of 10 million naira compensation to Senator Kabiru Marafa and 140 others who are respondents in the suit. The court admonished political parties to adhere strictly to the rules they set for themselves and the Electoral Act.
The highest court of the land has spoken. We abide by it. We have no choice.
INEC is a regulatory agency. When INEC spoke earlier, many people misunderstood the message INEC was trying to send to the political parties. Now the Supreme Court has spoken, and I hope the political parties will abide by it, and next time they do the right thing.
The APC candidates, including the outgoing governor of Zamfara State, Abdulaziz Yari, who was elected to the Senate, had won most of the offices contested in the 2019 general elections. By this judgment, they will have to relinquish their victories in line with the order of the court. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
Now, that decision from the highest court in the land seems to have forced the Independent National Electoral Commission into an emergency meeting, which will hold tomorrow, Saturday, May the 25th. The top hierarchy of the Electoral Commission will review the decision, which sacked all elected members of the All Progressives Congress in Zamfara State, and will release a statement on its position on Monday. The electoral umpire said in a statement by its National Commissioner, Mr. Festus Okoye, that the Commission held a meeting today and would continue deliberations on the Supreme Court ruling on Saturday. The APC had been declared winner of the state governorship election, as well as 7 House of Representatives seats, 3 senatorial positions, and 24 House of Assembly seats. Now, the story is different in Ekiti State, where the Supreme Court dismissed an appeal filed by the People's Democratic Party and its candidate challenging the election of Governor Kayode Fayemi today. Justice John Okoro, in the league judgment, held that the appeal is unmeritorious. He noted that the 2 lower courts have been concurrent in their findings and that it's only where the appellant has established a breach of the law that the Apex Court can decide otherwise. The court affirmed the judgment of both the tribunal and the appeal court and dismissed the appeal of the PDP. Now, Governor Kayode Fayemi has also been reacting to the court judgment that affirmed his victory, and he says he's pleased with the Supreme Court ruling, describing it as an end to litigations capable of distracting him. He calls on his challenger, Professor Kolapo Olushola of the People's Democratic Party, to place the interest of Ekiti State first above party politics.
Supreme Court just confirmed what every objective observer of that election already knew. And the Foundation Trial Court did a yeoman's job, in my view, of making it absolutely clear that the election in Ekiti was in all ways a credible election, which was substantially compliant with the Electoral Act. So, but then we still must thank the Supreme Court for putting a finality to these endless litigations that we've been dealing with. Seleka is a distinguished Ekiti son. He has served the state as deputy governor for 4 years. To the best of my knowledge, I don't know him closely, but from what I read, from what I see of him, I would like to think he's a decent Ekiti son. And having pursued his case to its logical conclusion, I would hope that he will now concentrate on the Ekiti party, not APC, not PDP, but Ekiti party. And when you belong to Ekiti party, you serve Ekiti people. And whatever I can do to serve us, I'll be happy to work with it.
The compliance with the presidential directive on evacuation of articulated trucks in Apapa and adjoining streets along the nation's ports has taken effect. And this follows the expiration of the 72-hour ultimatum issued by President Muhammadu Buhari on May the 22nd. A presidential task force chaired by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, was also set up to restore law and order to the area. Our next report takes a look at the level of compliance with the presidential order.
The federal government's directive seemed to receive a high-level compliance. The trucks and tankers that once heavily parked on Apapa Road are gradually fizzling out. Truck drivers must pass through different checkpoints before they are cleared to proceed to the port.
We are a sided body that used to carry flour, sugar, and fertilizers, even brown. But they used to disturb us at this very bridge, this total gas bridge, by the Navy personnel, that we are not authorized, we are not known. They only based on containers, either white or any container. They only based on them just because of what they are getting from them.
Those not cleared are turned back. Rising from a stakeholders meeting over the congestion in Apapa, a former commissioner of transportation in Lagos State hints on the outcome.
And the 72-hour ultimatum is a time created to allow the trucks to move into where they will stage. So beyond the way you look at it as an enforcement deadline, it also serves us well. However, from tomorrow afternoon, we believe they will have moved. And those that are not able to move, we will do what the executive order prescribed, that is, we impound.
While the clearing of these heavy-duty vehicles lasts, residents and motorists hope this won't resurface.
The stakeholders, both members of NUPENG and transport workers, have agreed and promised to comply. So we expect a new dawn as from now.
This is not the first time Apapa Road is being cleared of parked trucks and tankers through the federal government's directive. The coming days will prove this directive potent or otherwise.
In a few hours from now, the presidential directive given to trucks and other articulated vehicles will expire. The 72-hour ultimatum comes on the heels of persistent chaos and the gridlock caused by these vehicles on the Oshodi-Apapa Expressway and its environs. Aside the gridlock, the challenge has also caused the loss of huge revenue to government and business. In our next report, our correspondent, Olu Phillips, brings more details about this situation.
In 2017, the president of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, estimated that the country is losing about 140 billion naira weekly to traffic gridlocks on Apapa Oshodi Expressway. In the last few years, the two major roads leading to Nigeria's two major seaports have witnessed a near-permanent scenario of congestion by trucks and other articulated vehicles. Before long, the effects became glaringly evident, with devastating effects on residents who were trapped most days, businesses that kept relocating in their numbers, plus those that have closed shop, constant gridlock that spread out into other parts of town, environmental issues, deaths, filth and blocked drains, loss of man-hour, and an endless tale of complaints from residents and non-residents.
Whatever you see here is being caused by the government, because all of these things could easily be fixed.
Yet not much visibly represented any solution. Till date, commercial buses drive unabated against traffic on the Oshodi Mile 2 Apapa Expressway, leading to total chaos and collapse of road sanity. But what are the real issues? On record, there are over 28 tank farms operating in that vicinity, a fallout of a failed pipeline network as a means of distributing petroleum products. Over 60% of sea freight traffic is concentrated at the Lagos port, despite the potential of other ports across the country, a situation attributed to security concerns and shallow draft. Operations of the concessionaires, the shipping lines and other ancillary activities have been abysmally poor. As a result, over 4,000 trucks converge on the Apapa area, making living and commuting a big stress. When they have intervened, government at the state and federal level did set up committees, task force, gave directives. You may recall those of the vice president over 7 months ago, repaired the wharf road, bridges, but what happened? The situation persisted. On the president's visit to Lagos, a trend was noticed. The trucks kind of miraculously disappeared all through the duration of his stay. The climax of what no longer can be considered as a fluke is the last 2 visits during the campaign and commissioning of projects. Apapa was almost a ghost town. What's new? Well, rising from a meeting on Wednesday, the 22nd of May 2019, a presidential order went into circulation. 2 major highlights of that order are: all trucks and their likes have until Saturday afternoon to vacate all roads leading to the port. Second, a presidential task force headed by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, has 2 weeks to restore sanity to the Apapa vicinity. In its term of reference, they have captured short, medium, and long-term solutions to the problem. Saturday is around the corner. The wait won't be long before assessments can be passed on whether this is another 72 hours ultimatum or a real beginning of the end to the Apapa menace. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.